Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Bulkum. Today I'm going to be doing a short tutorial on how to paint an Ork Warboss. Now if you watched the previous video about an Ork Warboss's skin and how to paint that makes up the first 5 minutes or so of this video, so I'm going to link the time down below and then you can just skip to the bit that you haven't seen before. The first colour that we're going to use is Vallejo German Cam Dark Green, and the reason we want to use that, or something similar, it doesn't matter if it's Games Workshop, Vallejo or Army Painter, as long as it's a darker green than the Noir Flesh that we've been using for the other miniatures, then that's fine. When we come back, we'll have all this green done. With the base colour done, we're now going to use Citadel Nuln Oil, and that's just going to be to shade the skin. When we come back, we'll have all the Nuln Oil finished. Now we're going to reapply the German Cam Dark Green. I'm going to make sure that we leave all the Nuln Oil in the recesses. When we come back, we'll have all the dark green finished. Now I've added a little bit of Skarsnik green to the German Cam Dark Green. I'm just going to start on the first set of highlights for his skin. When we come back, we'll have all these highlights finished. Okay, so we've added some Skarsnik green to that previous mix, and I've just changed brushes to the Army Painter character brush. I'm just going to be doing another highlight on his skin. This time we're going to be aiming to get the highlight more on the top, so it departs the catch light. When we come back, we'll have all this highlight finished. Just added one final bit of Skarsnik green into the mix, and we're just going to do a final highlight on his skin. Now just to show you on his arms here, I've also been doing striations on the muscles, because obviously they're pretty strong, muscular fellas, the Orks. So all I've been doing is doing striations along the muscles length. So we're just going to give a final highlight to the middle of some of these striations. It doesn't matter too much if you miss them, but as long as there's a few little highlights on there. When we come back, we'll have all of this highlight finished. So the next colour that we're going to use is Citadel Mephiston Red. Now, because we used the face and the skin to do a previous video, it's now made it really quite difficult to do the inside of his mouth. So what I'm going to do is use an old brush so that we can just put a little bit of paint on the brush and just sort of like wiggle it around in his mouth to make sure that we're getting the red everywhere in there, and trying to get as little as possible on his face. Now if you do, you can just touch up the face with some of the green that you've used or make a green mix, but it shouldn't be too bad. You will have red around the edge of his mouth anyway from where the inside of his mouth joins the outside of his mouth, so it's not too bad. I'm just going to use a slightly better brush. I'm using a Citadel small layer brush just to go around the front of his teeth here. Like so. Now we're going to use a little bit of Emperor's Children to do his tongue. Like so. Now we're just going to use some Citadel Druchii Violet. I'm going to use that just to wash the inside of his mouth. I'll darken those colours down, give it more of a fleshy look. Now I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of Carroburg Crimson to his tongue, and that'll darken that up a bit nicely. Like so. Now we're just using some Citadel Lead Belcher. I'm just going to start working on the metallics. I usually use the Vallejo Model Air metallics when I'm doing them, but I really do like Lead Belcher because it's a darker metallic. It does give good coverage over black, so if you're using a black undercoat it's ideal. And I think it suits orcs more to have a slightly darker metallic on their claws and their weapons rather than maybe the nice shiny silvers or chromes that you get with maybe Imperial weapons or Space Marine weapons. So that's why I tend to use Lead Belcher a lot more on orcs. When we come back, we'll have all of the Lead Belcher finished. Now we're just going to use some Kantor blue to paint up some of his armour and some parts on his weapons. When we come back, we'll have all the Kantor blue finished. The next colour that we're going to use is Vallejo Beige Brown. I'm going to use that to do all the bits that look like leather straps and cords that are like wrapped around weapons and handles and that kind of stuff. When we come back, we'll have all the beige brown finished. Next we're going to be using Citadel Rakarth Flesh. This is going to be to do all his teeth. When we come back, we'll have all the Rakarth Flesh finished. Now we're just going to use a little bit of Citadel Retributor Armour to add a little bit gold to the model. When we come back, we'll have all the Retributor armour finished. The next colour that we're using is Vallejo White. This is going to be to do some of the details on him, the stripes on his pants and that kind of stuff. When we come back, we'll have all the white finished. Well, that's the white finished. You can tell though that I've also done Mephiston Red on the fist at the back and on 2 of the rockets. That's just to add a bit of colour. And we're now going to do the kind of half moon shape here using Averland Sunset. When we come back, we'll have all the yellow finished. Next, we're just going to be using black. You can use any black for this, and this is just going to be to do his boots and his vest. When we come back, we'll have all the black finished. Okay, the next colour that we're going to use is Citadel Wire Flesh. We're just going to be using this to paint his fingernails on his hand there. Like so. We're also just going to use a little bit of Citadel Macragge blue. We're going to do the armour plates down his front. Like so. Next colour that we're going to use is Citadel Fulgurite Copper. I'm going to use that just to do a few of the smaller details on him. When we come back, we'll have all the Fulgurite Copper finished. Next we're using Vallejo Modeler Chrome. Just going to do some of the loops on the chain and some of the smaller details. When we come back, we'll have all the Modeler Chrome finished. The final base colour that we're using is Citadel Mechanicus Standard Grey. I'm just going to do the rocks by his feet. You notice the little skull just to the left there. I've painted that with Rakarth flesh because I didn't actually notice it when I first started painting them. But if you add a base coat of Rakarth flesh, and we'll carry on with that as we go. Change to a slightly bigger brush to get that done quicker. When we come back, we'll have all Mechanicus Standard Grey finished. Now we're going to move on to the shades. The first shade that we're using is Citadel Nuln Oil. I'm going to use that on all the silver metallics and on the rocks as well. We come back, we'll have all the Nuln Oil finished. The next shade we're using is Citadel Agrax Earthshade. This do all the browns and the sort of the gold and the copper coloured metallics. You can also use this to add a little bit of corrosion to the silvery metallics as well. It's not too good on the upkeep of the weapons. So this just adds a bit of dirt and grime to them. When we come back, we'll have all the Agrax Earthshade finished. Next shade is Citadel Seraphim Sepia. I'm just going to use this to do any bits of bone on it. So we've got the skull and his teeth and the teeth that are hanging about him. Like so. So next we're going to use Citadel Duty Violet. We're just going to use that on the reds that are on the rocket and on his banner pole, any of the tubing on him. Like so. Next is just Carrowbird Crimson, and that's just to do the hair hanging from his banner pole. Like so. Next shade that we're going to use is Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade. We're going to be using that just to do all the blue. When we come back, we'll have all the Drakenhof Nightshade finished. The final shade that we're going to use is Citadel Fusion Orange. It's just to do all the yellows. And that is all the shades finished. Now we're using Citadel Kantor Blue again. We're just going to reapply some of the blue colouring to his armour and his trousers. We're going to be trying to highlight the uppermost areas, as we want it to look like it's catching the light from above. When we come back, we'll have all the Kantor Blue finished. We've just added a little bit of white to the Kantor Blue. Now just going to start repainting and highlighting the armour. When we come back, we'll have all this blue finished. Now we've just added a little bit more white to that mix. We're just going to do another further highlight on the blue. When we come back, we'll have all this highlight done. Now we're just going to use Vallejo German Grey. That's a really dark grey colour, so it's great for highlighting black. So it can give you the highlights without looking too obvious when you see it on a miniature. When we come back, we'll have all the German Grey finished. I've just added a tiny little bit of white to some Vallejo German Grey. I'm just going to do a few little highlights. Now just returning to Mephiston Red, what we're going to do now is go over all the red parts to bring the colour back out. When we come back, we'll have all the Mephiston Red finished. Now we're just going to highlight the hair. This we're going to use a mix of Mephiston Red and White. We're just going to give this a very light highlight on the raised edges. Now the reason we're only doing the hair is because I want the hair and the red sign behind it to look different. So I'm highlighting the hair this way, so I think it'll catch the light more than the red of the sign would. And I'm going to highlight the sign with a different colour. Now I'm just going to add a little bit more white to that mix for one final highlight. Like so. Now I've just added some Citadel Fire Dragon Bright to Mephiston Red. We're just going to highlight the remaining bits of red. Like so. I've just added a little bit more Fire Dragon Bright. We're just going to do one final highlight. Like so. Quickly, you can see here you've got like a little bit where the shading's gone a bit askew. So all I'm going to do is use a little bit of Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade just to smooth that over so it's not quite as defined. Like so. Now we're returning to Averland Sunset. That's just going to be to go over all the yellow sections. When we come back, we'll have all the Averland Sunset finished. Now we're just going to be using a little bit of Citadel Yriel Yellow. That's just going to be to add a little bit of light colour to the yellows. When we come back, we'll have all the Yriel Yellow finished. Next we're just going to do a little bit of Retributor armour. That is just to re-highlight some of the gold that we've used previously. Like so. Next we're just going to use a little bit of Citadel Liberator gold. And that's going to be to highlight the gold that we've just reapplied. Like so. Now we're just going to highlight the Fulgurite copper. Like so. The camera just cut out there, but we're working with Mechanicus Standard Grey. I've reapplied it to most of this rock already, so I'm just going to carry on with this side and move on to his other foot. like so. We've added a little bit of white to the Mechanicus standard grey, and we're just going to use this as a highlight. Like so. Okay, now we're just going to replace some of the Rakarth flesh on the bones and the teeth. Like so. Now we've just added a little bit of Ushabti bone to the Rakarth flesh. We're just going to add this as one final highlight to the bone. Now I didn't paint this in the last section, but I have added Rakarth flesh to it once the camera was off, because I forgot it was down there. Finally, we're just going to add some pure Ushabti bone to it. Like so. Next colour is going to be Macragge blue. This is going to be to reapply this piece of armour down here. Then we're going to add a little tiny bit of white to it and do a highlight on there. Like so. Next we're going to be re-highlighting the white. What we're also going to be doing is applying some checks to his armour. I have watered down the white to do this, because I don't like having them too bright and too bold when you've painted them on. When we come back, we'll have all the white finished. And next we're going to be using black. I'm going to be using a bit of packing sponge from one of the old blister packs. We're just going to be dabbing this onto the metal areas where his armour looks perfect and pristine, just to give it a little bit of battle damage. I'm using a very thin end here because I don't want to cover too much area with it. When we come back, I have all this black done. Okay, so you can see where we've added the black to his armour, just to scratch it up a bit. Now we're going to go into those areas with a bit of Vallejo Modeler Chrome. I'm going to be using a thinner brush. I'm going to be using the Army Painter Wargamer character brush. When we come back, we'll have all the chrome finished. Next colour that we're going to use is Citadel Riser Rust, and we're just going to use that just to add a little bit of oranging to parts of it. Now, you don't want to be putting loads of this on, it's only a little light smattering just to give it a hint of orange. like so. Next colour that we're going to be using is Citadel Necron Compound. That's just to add some shiny worn edges to the metals. When we come back, we'll have all the Necron Compound finished. The final thing left to do is just to paint his eyes using Citadel Mephiston Red. And for this we're going to be using an RB Painter Wargame character brush again. So you can see that I've gone over the lines there. All I'm going to do after the video is finished is touch it up with a little bit of green. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of black to try and do his pupils. Like so. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also think about subscribing to some of our other social media linked below. Thanks very much.